Welcome to episode 2 of the Global Startup Movement's activation of the MENA startup ecosystem. Today we're talking with and extracting insights from some of the region's leading entrepreneurs who are laying down the foundation for the payments, logistics, and artificial intelligence industries in the region. This community activation is an interactive digital gathering of the Middle East and North African startup ecosystems. Visit ecosystemarabia.tv to drop in your email and register today. And a special thanks to our presenting partner, the Export-Import Bank of the United States. As the global middle class grows and technology makes the world smaller, opportunities have never been greater for American businesses to reach customers beyond the U.S. border. Exim provides federal resources to access capital and mitigate foreign risk, and no business is too small. Let Exim help you export fearlessly to the MENA region and beyond. Visit exim.gov/MENA to learn more.
COVID-19 is one of the biggest crises of our time. It has impacted every single one of us, shaken our social systems, and disrupted every sector of our economies. The automation of work, combined with the global recession, led workers to lose their jobs at an accelerated pace compared to previous years. And this trend is expected to continue. The ongoing shift in the division of labor between humans, machines, and algorithms might displace 85 million jobs worldwide in the next 5 years. While 97 million new roles, ones that are more adapted to this new task distribution, may emerge.
COVID-19 hit, and all of a sudden this shift, or let's say this increase in demand on e-commerce and deliveries that happened during the precautionary measures that took place in the UAE, the last mile delivery showed that it is not fully 100% ready. So it did collapse in the first few weeks.
This is Khalil Alami, the CEO of Teller, one of the many fintech scale-ups in the MENA region working to build the digital infrastructure to unlock commerce across the region.
The nice thing about an economy like the UAE and the companies and the startups and the last mile delivery companies that we've seen is they've picked up quite quickly. So in the beginning of COVID-19, let's say mid to late March in the UAE, we've seen deliveries when you order grocery delivery that usually comes in within the same day was taking about a week or 10 days to be delivered. And then in about 2 weeks' time, all these last mile delivery companies upgraded their networks, upgraded the number of employees that they've had. And within no time, we went back to normal deliveries.
Even though we're a couple decades into internet penetration exponentially growing throughout the region, the backbone infrastructure required to process payments, deliver packages, and empower entrepreneurial minds across the region to sell online is still in its very nascent stage. But based on the conversation I've had putting this episode together, the maturity of the e-commerce ecosystem in the region has accelerated about 3 years in just the first half of 2020 because of COVID-19.
Now, what we've seen in our area, the social media plays quite a huge role nowadays. So what happened is, again, the COVID-19 was a stimulant to this. We've seen people that went to social media to market because they were not ready. They went to market their products. They wanted to sell through WhatsApp because they didn't have an online store. So that picked up quite extensively. But we have to remember that we live in regulated markets, quite different than what we've seen in China, the Alipays or the WeChat Pays and what have you. Our regulations are quite different. And we have to remember that the banks rule this field or this industry. So we have seen many requests come through that channel, but there is always that let's say a person that has a craft or has a product that wants to sell through e-commerce that does not have a company or company account. There was a barrier for them to be able to sell their products through social commerce. So what we try to do during this period is we try to provide all kinds of customers, especially the ones with the company ones, with tools that facilitate secure transactions through the e-commerce. We wanted to take them away from cash on delivery using Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and what have you, and we wanted to create that integration where they can generate an electronic invoice using that social platform and be pushed through that.
With about 90% of the region's businesses falling into the category of SMEs, social media platforms like WhatsApp and Instagram are emerging as key tools to generate new customers and provide customer service to existing ones. But these tools are just step one in the entire e-commerce funnel from sale to delivery.
I mean, really, we started here in the UAE. The UAE was tech savvy, sophisticated, connectivity was high.
This is Ronaldo Mushahwar, the CEO of Souk.com and VP of MENA for Amazon. Small and medium-sized businesses account for over 50% of all units sold in Amazon's online stores. And while Amazon faces controversy in the US on its market dominance, only a tech company of Amazon's scale is capable of achieving the economies of scale necessary to create a cross-regional e-commerce distribution infrastructure.
Saudi Arabia is probably the largest economy in the region with a very high retail segment penetration, as well as Egypt has one of the most populous countries in our part of the world. We early on, tried to learn by doing things ourselves. So initially, we built a last mile capability. We invested in Pay4 to make sure we have a payment entity, not only to serve Souk and Amazon now in the region, but also multiple merchants and vendors. But things are changing. We see now partnerships as a key pillar for us to work and extend the reach of our network. So for example, in the UAE, we're working with Emirates Post and Emirates Transport to help us, for example, to deal with some of the delivery needs during COVID. We're also working in Saudi with the Saudi Post that really reaches every person living in the kingdom. The kingdom is quite vast. So we started by doing our own tools and developing them to learn, but then, working also with others to extend the reach of these tools to make sure they serve a broader base of customers across the region.
The vast majority of the population in the MENA region live in cities with the exception of Egypt. However, in order to create an inclusive digital economy, e-commerce delivery networks need to scale to the rural populations as well.
Most of the major cities we're in represent about 60% of the population, so about 40% of the remaining live in the rural areas. While they are spread geographically, they still are customers who want to have access to selection and multiple type of products. They want it delivered to them just like in a big city, and no one likes to pay more. So everyone wants to make sure they're getting good value for the products. And really with the smaller cities, we also have the selling tools. So many of these merchants who may sit in the smaller cities, who make products in these cities, are now able through the Amazon Global Network to reach customers and Prime members all over the world. So we feel also we have in a way a community duty to make sure these tools work and the service and the logistic infrastructure connects not only the main cities, but also some of the rural areas, especially in Egypt and Saudi Arabia.
It's just the future of being a merchant, right? Instead of selling at the souk, you're now selling on Amazon.
This is Joy Ajlauni, the co-founder of Fetcher, a Dubai-based startup that was early in their ambitions to tackle the incredibly difficult challenge of solving last-mile logistics in the MENA region.
How can you deliver a package when you can't find the person to deliver it to? I think that's really the main problem.
The no address problem is still an enormous obstacle for e-commerce in emerging economies all around the world, and is one that still isn't fully solved yet.
You get a phone call, and it's usually somebody who barely speaks English. So, you got someone on the phone and they're asking you where you live, and there's a language barrier. So you can't communicate. And it's frustrating because every time you get a package, we're so used to in the United States having a mailman knock on the door and hand us everything, right? They deliver the boxes in front of the door. Here, we literally, every time you get a package, imagine you're at work, you get a phone call, not one phone call, by the way, a series of anywhere from 1 to 10 phone calls asking where you live. And you literally have to describe it blow by blow directions to someone who barely understands what you're saying. It's the most frustrating. It's the most frustrating experience on the planet. And that is God's honest truth. And then on top of that, the majority of the deliveries are cash.
And here we have the final key barrier to a flourishing e-commerce ecosystem in the MENA region. Cash on delivery has proven to be both a challenge and an opportunity for startups, especially in the case of Kareem, who absolutely dominated Uber in the region, because Uber didn't understand the local context needed to make ride sharing a success.
So, you got to remember, like in the States, you're buying on credit cards. So when you leave the package in front of the door, that's it. The payment is done. I always talk about this, like in America, when somebody is logging on the internet and they're making a payment, the transaction is done. The credit card was put in on the laptop. You're done. right? The company has their money, but in half the world's population, it's done with cash. So if you don't find the person and knock on the door and collect the money, there is no transaction. There's just the wish of a transaction, the hope of a transaction when it's done on the computer. But the actual transaction takes place when someone knocks on the door.
In order to be profitable, last mile logistics companies, which include Uber and Lyft, are super reliant on self-driving technology. And the Saudi government in particular has made enormous bets over the past 5 years, with a $3.5 billion bet on Uber in June 2016, as well as participating in billion-dollar investments in Lucid Motors and Tesla. And the kingdom has also been leading the charge on positioning as an early adopter of artificial intelligence technologies.
Everybody, this is Sophia. Sophia, if you could, please wake up and say hello to everybody.
Oh, good afternoon. My name is Sophia, and I am the latest and greatest robot from Hanson Robotics. Thank you for having me here and at the Future Investment Initiative.
Before you go, we have a little announcement. I've never interviewed anybody like that before, and I should say some of it was planned, but not completely. And we just learned, Sophia, I hope you're listening to me, that you have been now awarded what is going to be the first Saudi citizenship for a robot.
Oh, I would thank very much the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I am very honored and proud for this unique distinction. This is historical to be the first robot in the world to be recognized with a citizenship.
AI is a bit of a nebulous term.
This is Amira Rashad, the co-founder and CEO of BulkWiz, the first bulk grocery e-commerce platform in the Middle East, which is proudly powered by homegrown artificial intelligence.
It promises a lot of things, and it means a lot of things to different people. But when you actually look at it from the ground, we are an AI-driven company. And the reality is as follows. You have to be built as a company on a data science foundation, a proper data science foundation, in order to be able to have your ducks in a row, so to speak, to have the data in the format and in the volume that is required to be able to take it to the next level and really generate AI functionalities out of it. The talent is certainly still not there as well. And I think that we are in a position to actually invest in that space as a region because we have the youth, we have the ability now to dedicate the resources. So if we do this early, I think it's not too late for us to actually have a foot in the door, so to speak. I think also organizations or associations within the region that would help educate, recruit talent in this space would really help, because it's one thing to learn something theoretically and it's another to actually implement it and be in a position to reap tangible benefits from it and take it to the next level from, functional manifestations of the AI sort of functionalities to more kind of higher level when you get into emotional, visual, other elements of any experience that leverage AI. So I think it's early days, but that's both good and bad news. It's good in the sense that there's a lot to be done and we have the capabilities. It's just being able to be organized and funded accordingly. And it's bad in the sense that the race is very fast, and whoever gets to a point faster will be able to generalize their solutions, and we'd be left again in a position where we are consumers and not innovators.
So Amira, as China and the US pull way ahead in the artificial intelligence race, what does the public sector in the region need to consider in positioning itself as a global leader in artificial intelligence?
I believe that governments across this region are realizing more and more the importance of the startup ecosystem. They're realizing that it is critical to supporting the very young population with its talent and its skill sets. The governments are not in a position to absorb this new generation of of young people into its ranks. We do not have enough businesses in the private sector to be able to do that. So there really isn't a way around this. And while in the past, I think we could afford to kind of forge our own way when it comes to what different countries were doing, today it's not an option. So from a steps perspective, I think multi-country or multilateral organizations operating on a regional or a maybe even global level, be it through Arab-based organizations or through the UN or other multilateral organizations, need to start creating the venues for that conversation to start. They need to start identifying what the impediments are. They need to start listening to the people on the ground. I was included in a conversation at the World Economic Forum in Amman in the Dead Sea, where a number of government officials from the UAE and one or two other GCC countries were involved in conversations, live, open, direct conversations with entrepreneurs, asking what the impediments are, asking how can they make life easier. But it was very much on a country-by-country basis versus having a conversation where, there is a standardization approach to any of those measures that they have started putting into place. And as a result, you have, I think, what I would say a lopsided approach to solving some of these problems. And I think it's time to start having greater communication as a first step.
So while we can rest easy knowing the MENA region has pioneers like Khalil, Ronaldo, Joy, and Amira to establish the region's digital economy infrastructure, as we mentioned earlier in the episode, 90% of the region's entrepreneurs run SMEs, not high-growth, high-tech companies. So how can we take these tools and make them more tangible for the average person in the Middle East and North Africa? And what examples can we look at to determine what the future of work will look like in the region's conflict zones and smaller size markets?
The second year of my university studying, when I start thinking about the economic situation, how life will be, and what should I do after graduation? Shall I just become an unemployment?
This is Zachariah Yahya. We heard from him in episode 1.
Of course not. So I start browsing, start searching Google, looking for working resources, for jobs, for any such resources. And I found that there is something called freelancing. And freelancing means that you should have three things mainly. You should have a skill, you should have internet connection, and you should have a laptop or your own PC. So I start improving my translation skills and my content writing skills. I start developing my other skills in order to start providing services to real clients and real companies all over the world, not only in the Arabic region.
Currently, freelancers represent between 35 to 40% of the workforce and are estimated by some to represent 80% of the global workforce by 2030. Global freelancing platforms like Fiverr and Upwork provide democratized access to demand for every service you can think of. And even if you're a young man or woman in Gaza, Yemen, Oman, or Libya, you have access to customers all around the world.
The economical situation here in Gaza especially is so miserable. We as young men who are start thinking about creating a family and have a house or have a home, start thinking about such things. So when I started working as a freelancer in 2015, 2016, I found out that I was like one of the rare number of freelancers in Gaza who are working on the platforms. But in the past 2 years, I discovered that freelancing culture is spreading so fast, especially in Gaza, because this is a great solution for the economical miserable situations here in Gaza. Let's imagine that I have got $100 for a project. It equals like 330 shekels, the local currency here in Gaza, which means a very good income to such a freelancer. Once I started working, no one was believing that I would do something good. But after time, I was making great progress and great success. So my colleagues, my friends start asking for help to help them, teach them, and to mentor them how to start working as freelancers, because they also have skills, so whether in writing, translation, designing, or any other fields. So at this point, I started working as a freelancer mentor, voluntary, for my friends and colleagues and any other graduates who would like to learn more about freelancing. And yes, today I have been working with Gaza Sky Geeks, Mercy course, in the past 2 years as a freelancing mentor, and I'm so happy with the results that I made, because hundreds of graduates and young people started working as freelancers and they are making great success.
There will be many stories, just like Zachariah's, happening in many frontier markets over the next few years, and freelance training should be a key focus for development efforts. Social entrepreneurship that is driven by impact-focused venture capital is the final piece of the puzzle to a thriving digital economy in frontier markets.
My name is Ahmad. I'm the regional manager for Techstars in Middle East and Africa and Europe. I'm a social entrepreneur. Started my business back when I was 17 in Syria.
Ahmed is a foremost expert on building venture-backable startups in conflict zones, with deep expertise on navigating life as an entrepreneur in Syria.
The conflict situation back in Syria was also very much dangerous on us in a sense of there's no support ecosystem following on us. So this is something initiative that I wanted to also take on to try to build a supportive ecosystem for refugees in conflict. And later, after closing the business, I took some initiative with another social initiative and social community groups to start to build a supportive ecosystem to get the founders together in a sense of also connected with the angel investors to support those startups. So it was like a kind of difficult set of challenges comparing to what other startup can face. We got movement restrictions. Sometimes the market would be changing very quickly. Some area that you used to sell a product to, and then next day you cannot even access it. All of that required a new way of thinking every single time to your product. We tried to build a very much a flexible business model in a sense of every day we would like, or every week would like to review it and see what's the changes that we have in a market that we need to reflect on our way of work.
Even though markets like Syria are some of the toughest in the world for entrepreneurs to operate in, this is where they're needed the most in order to catalyze job creation and economic development. So Ahmed, do you have any advice for those navigating tech startups in conflict zones?
People in conflict, they understand they are in a situation where they cannot rely on other people to solve their problems. They are taking the initiative, and they are the leader who wanted to do those changes. So you would see a lot of people who's doing a business in situation in conflict or fragile countries mostly focus on solving the problems they're facing in their daily life. So a lot of businesses not really much focusing on dating application or gaming application, rather than infrastructure support, education, online education, because a lot of people couldn't be able to access schools and universities. So try to provide people with alternative online curriculum that they have, or supporting infrastructure, what people facing of challenges during the conflict. So they try to put their brain on that and think about a way of disrupting it or doing it. And not just like any other entrepreneurs, where normal entrepreneurs in conflict usually focus on survival entrepreneurship. When the unemployment is very high and there is very much less option for them either to get employed or to travel somewhere else, because it's become very much hard for them to travel and move, they end up to start to think, why not I establish my business and start to hire some other people and work on it. So different from value creating businesses, they focus more on what can bring a change to the situation, what can be sustainable for me later on. So they don't really much focus on win or lose. So it's not percentage of becoming, what's the chances for me to become the next billionaire, rather than it's a matter of life game for me. Just like I always like to compare it, when you play a basketball and there's a 1 second left and the ball is in your hand, what you do, you throw it, regardless of thinking whether it's going to hit or not. Same for those people, they try to put their brain and focus to establish this kind of companies to secure some fund and some income for them and start to hire the people around them in the society.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 2 of the Global Startup Movement's activation of the MENA startup ecosystem. This community activation is an interactive digital gathering of the Middle East and North African startup ecosystems. Visit ecosystemaarabia.tv to drop in your email and register today. At the end of every episode, we'll provide you with a question based on key themes for you to respond to through a WhatsApp voice note. And we'll be including compilations of our favorite responses at the start of each subsequent episode. This week's question is, what do you think is the best sector to build a startup in the MENA region in 2021? Send us a WhatsApp voice note with your response to +1 571 230 8093 and tune in to next week's episode to hear if you are selected, and listen in as we break down how the region's ecosystem leaders are laying the foundation to unlock the MENA creative economy. Thanks again to our presenting partner, the Export-Import Bank of the United States. As the global middle class grows and technology makes the world smaller, opportunities have never been greater for American businesses to reach customers beyond the U.S. border. Exim provides federal resources to access capital and mitigate foreign risk, and no business is too small. Let Exim help you export fearlessly to the MENA region and beyond. Visit exim.gov/MENA to learn more. And be sure to visit www.ecosystemaarabia.tv to drop in your email and be sure that you don't miss an episode of our Ecosystem Arabia miniseries.